more of a final design. Of course, we will have time to do that. Um,
You are okay.
Anyway, we will have time to write quickly tonight. We can have a really robust conversation about how we would like to see this design moving forward to the final product. So I'm going to turn it over to Chuck and his team, and if you guys can introduce yourself, that would be great, and we'll just get going.
Yeah, so thank you. With us tonight is Cody Howard, who's project manager with Civil Science, and Ann Christensen, who's with project manager with DHM in our landscape architecture. Since last we met at the end of January, we've been moving forward on design. Before we got too much into design, we developed enough that we could meet with. We invited everyone along the 9 streets. We called there 9 streets. So we don't those that do the storage parking treatment. We went door to door as well as sent out invitations, both residents and businesses. We held a workshop by street on May 4th in the morning and then in the afternoon. And then we held a Zoom meeting for those who couldn't attend on the next day, which was lightly attended, but we still had a little bit of participation. I think overall we had about 40 people show up. So not bad, you know, nature of people needing to, you know, spend time with us. But what I would say quickly is these weren't us standing up making a presentation. These, I mean, we gave like an interview, like overview, like I'm giving right now, a little different. But then we sat at tables in this room with different members of our group, going over in great detail with people writing on drawings and giving us their concerns or things they liked. You know, we heard everything from why didn't you do the parking structure? I'm honest with you. To, oh, I really like this. This is a good idea. So I mean, there's a whole gamut of things in there. And then in between as well, we'd like you to adjust this, can you modify that? So since that time, that's what we've been trying to address those comments. We want to make everybody happy, but it's, you know, there are some, you know, real issues involved with a project like this. We recognize that. I think our team has been doing a good job addressing them. You know, those little from everything from loading zones, as we talked about, to oversized vehicles, to I'm going to take away my parking in front of my business and I can put them in meetings. But we sent you the draft resolution. I apologize that I couldn't get that stuff to you, but we've been working hard to make these prepared for today. Because as the mayor said, our next step, ideally, is the June 16th public meeting. So we've been to the business owners. We wanted to come to council today to get your feedback as much as possible. If you're comfortable giving us feedback and direction today, that'd be great. We can then make those modifications if we can do that in the time frame to then go to the public and say, okay, this is still a draft, but it's been, you know, going through the businesses. Be twice council have given us some feedback. So then get feedback from the public and then come back again, report back to you and say, here's what we've heard. How do you want us to proceed? Because right now we're about 30% design, and this is the time when we looked at alternatives. The time for us to be looking at that. And that's why we made these modifications. But at some point afterwards, we go to starting to design construction. And we'll want, once we start on that path, go back. Typically, that's not a good use of the city's money. So the thing I would say before I turn it over is one of the things that came out of one of the comments we heard was we like this idea of not on my street, go to another street, which is all right. But that being said, we're trying to address all the problems, but the boundary condition on this, if you recall, is in the UDOT agreement, they want us to get 100 parking stalls, new parking stalls, right? And a parking stall is a parking space. So that's what we've been striving for, was to get that 188. Now, I'm not sure that UDOT would let us get by with 185 if we had to for good reason. But, you know, that was always a thing with the structure. We had to keep the parking stalls because they want to see the benefit. So when we had to make changes, we lost parking stalls on some of the 9 streets to make modifications to provide loading zones, to provide driveway access, to do things. So we looked at what else we could do, and we looked at other streets. And Cody, can you the other one, yeah. So what we did is we looked at 200 South, and 200 South is one we had not looked at before. It has some advantages because it's a wide street. That's something else I'd quickly say is that if you recall, the members of the committee, not every one of these streets has the same amount of width between curb and curb. Some places it's 66 feet, some places it's 76 feet. And of course, the wider it is, the better it is. And we've tried not to get into breaking up curb. There's one place where we went on Center, West Center, because of utilities, because of sidewalks, because of cost. But on 200 South, we pick up, if we do the eastern side, an additional 14 spaces, and if we do the west side, an additional 21 spaces. Which if we do that, and do make the other modifications we looked at, we end up with 188 additional stalls, which is the target. And also one of the things you'll notice in this is, Cody, if you can scroll up, please. There's median parking here. There's a lot of angle-in parking on 100 South. We have median parking on the east part of the center, and we've got and then in this demonstration area that we have in 100 East, that would need to remain as part of the project, if you will. And then on 100 North, we maintain, we lost the median parking. There's just not enough room to fit and to make the driveway entrances and provide the loading zones with median parking. So we went to 60-degree angle parking, which is the best angle to get the maximum amount of spaces per linear foot of road. And then if you go up to 200 North, we also went to that. But you do see that one of the things we've added, and Cody will talk about it, is quite a bit of rollouts at the intersections, which provides opportunities for aesthetics, but it also provides opportunities for traffic calming. We don't anticipate these being four-way stops. I'm not sure they meet the warrants. That one is minor arterial, but just narrowing the road in places give us an opportunity to slow traffic down, as well as you can see it. We provide ADA access at all the locations. So, with that overview, I just want to point out the things that we tried to do to address the comments from the residents, but we had to add those other streets to give, and we also added some streets on Emma. I think we added, some stalls on Emma. We were going to add another 15, if I recall, that we originally thought we could get. And you, council, saw the layout for that before, and we already maximized the stall. This we're talking that's now under 90, that was all. So with it, I'd like to turn over to Cody to keep things going.
Okay, perfect. So just to touch on the engineering functionality of it, three main concerns kind of came out from everyone was great. Loading and unloading of brakes and 200. The streets just are not wide enough to make goals. And so we went back to the drawing board and we've got what we originally showed them there, and then we've got another here. We'll leave these with you so you can look at them. It shows the difference. There's that median parking that we're showing on 100 North here. Now we're just showing it on the sides of the street, opening out. You can see there's a difference in stalls there. Another, so that was the big one we addressed there. Safety is always a concern. One of the things that we're concerned about is people walking across the road, median parking. So by eliminating that, it eliminates life safety. So I think there was some opportunity there. The other big one is sight distance. And so like I think all about see here. I'm sure very some people maybe have driven our demonstration there. As you pull out of 100 north from our demonstration area, I think you understand, like, you can't just stop at the stop sign. You actually have to pull out in the road to be able to see traffic coming down, right? And so by adding bulb outs, it pushes that line of sight out further in the intersection, makes it safer. Pedestrian crossing across the streets, make it shorter. So it actually, and it's a traffic calming. So it's a win-win scenario for everything. Pedestrian, traffic, slowing down. So really like this concept. And the problem I think with why we didn't go with it in the first place was stall count. We need stalls. And so by looking at other areas, downtown. And then there were some concerns just all over with access. So, and some of those we can address, and others are going to be difficult as people want to pull out of their driveways. But there's some instances, like for example, the Forest Service, and we've got instances that come on 200 south, so there's a hardware store, and a lot of freight that goes in there. So we've got, all in all, it's
I just want to interject. Those issues that Cody's talking about, we tried to address in this design you're looking at. Like going into the back of Walker's, that leaves that driveway open, leaves the nap open. It leaves access to it. So we tried to address those issues, even though there will be, some changes. You can't turn left across the median park. You have to come out, go right, and go up. There's space there. There's a possibility too that sort of parallel parking. That's in. There's some out there by the median could potentially be used for our long vehicles. Right, people with trailers just pull up parallel there, go to the end and turn around. We designed that way so that there's stall counts. We don't, I think everyone knows. Long vehicle parking is an issue in the city. We're trying to, with the comments we heard too, that we're trying to provide opportunities for that.
And I think the other thing we can talk about right there, as far as why we think 200 south, we like access. But
Yeah, look at the other thing, Joe, this scroll. I'm glad, brother. See the shared use map right there, next to the Gonzo? That provides pedestrian and connectivity from that 200 south up to 100 west and the Mill Creek Parkway, which I think if we advertise that with wayfinding signage, which is in the budget, that's an attractive place to park so that people use that opportunity to get to the parkway, as opposed to we have limited places like the 100 East now, High School Park, it's kind of smaller. So we thought that was another good thing about 200 south.
the reason we didn't choose other places, we looked at 200 north, but based on largely residential
And it's narrow.
and it's narrow. For 200 south as well. So that kind of gives you a background of where we're at today. And obviously, we want to take this to, like Chuck said, time level now. This is conceptual. So I'd like to turn the time over to Ann to kind of talk about this.
So coming into Main Court, with that design, our aesthetics were really being located in those island caps, in those diagonal markings, the beginnings of each block. And so now with this shift, we had the opportunity to do more routes and just a few of those end caps. And so the bump outs are nice addition, not only for the reasons that Chuck mentioned, but they kind of tack on to the businesses on the corner. So it's a little bit more connecting to existing urban design type space rather than being kind of isolated in the parking area. So like for benches and bike racks and things like that, except it's a little more pleasant for people downtown to enjoy. So we're happy to see it go that direction. And then we came in May 4th with 3 different general organizing themes. And with those was kind of a laundry list of different amenities and styles. And the idea with that was to gain input from that group to see where their interests were. And we gained a lot of support for the more naturalistic regional landscape based themes and less interest in more sort of polished design for planters and formal landscaping. So then as we're moving forward towards this more preferred plan, we pulled from those elements that into this. So all of those were very much based on the rock formations from the local geology and interest in some of the patterns that you see in the Moab area. Some of that's the wind kind of and diagonal striations. So using some kind of combination of fresh rock and pressure lines and boulders, which is also very low maintenance, which is key. And then on the planting side, going with demonstrating local and adapted plants that are very hardy to grow the climate here. So we started with a baseline based on UDOT's funding. So UDOT has 6% of the budget, overall construction budget, goes toward this. And so we're kind of considering things in the back of the behind the walkway, that's aesthetics, that doesn't count things that are part of the function of the parking, like dollars that will control the movement and the diagonals, not part of that budget, and lighting is not part of that. But all these surface treatment, benches, something like a shade pergola, sculpture, things like that are part of the aesthetics budget. So in this scheme, with 6%, that gets about 250K, and so that would cover the surface treatments and some of these furnishings, not everything shown. Like it probably wouldn't be enough to cover shade shelters. And on the top of the shade shelter, came in with a variety going from fabric shade sails to solar panels that would also be shade shelters. And we had a lot of interest in something that would be very durable, long lasting. And then solar ready, maybe solar as a sort of separate demonstration thing, not necessarily part of the project because of the kind of costs associated with that. So we went with more of just the kind of freestanding steel structure that could have either more fabric or solar added to it, just to get something going that would be very low maintenance. So that would, like I said, that would be part of the enhanced city budget. Yet, we also looked at the potential for trees. So trees would require irrigation system, and so by doing by committing to that, that's definitely above and beyond the UDOT aesthetic budget funding. Just wanted to throw that in the rendering. A possibility, of course, with the final have to be played very clearly out of but that gives you a sense of what that sort of additional irrigation can support, a higher level of planting on the ground level and shade. That's something that like, but in the group, the sheriff and the stakeholders, they have mixed input on it. Heard from some who love the trees, want to have green or oasis like, or residents and visitors, and other people were like, oh, I kind of like it just being minimal stick and reflecting the native types that. So kind of had a full range. So I'm gonna wrap up, and love to hear your input, just a little bit more about lighting. Strictly following the dark sky code for that and building off of the light fixtures that are used now, so that this would be consistent, but switching from the Cobras that are at a higher level, they're more like 25 feet tall to a pedestrian scale. So this would be a range of 15 from the ground to the light fixture. And then shielded dark sky fixtures that would also be adjustable and so using that technology that fixtures, but having those be within the package that the city already has. If they're on the side, the single arm, they would need a little bit of customization to block, and it'd be about 60 feet on center light levels that would add safety for people getting to and from their cars at night without overlighting it beyond that. And so in the center diagonal, we looked at the potential like on those blocks of where they're in that iron similar post but with a double head to shine phase of that. And then that puts it on, we put it on a concrete base in that. That's the direction I like.
Quickly on that, what we mean by the dimmable is that so we say we're at 100% brightness until from dusk until 10 o'clock at night. And then we could set the timer so we can then go to 70%. So the, I guess it'd be a dimmer light. With the fact that some businesses are still open past 10 o'clock, most of them close. And it seems to be when the residents, start joining a bit. And then potentially at 1 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock, when there's no businesses open, they can go to 25% or we can even turn them on. And then the next day, the same cycle with these. We can include that in the design. We have that up in Aggie Boulevard. If anyone's up and wants to watch them turn on, we're at 1 o'clock. And you can see it. I've done it just to make sure it worked. So that's included. And then the other thing quickly, Dave, you talk about the home birds.
Yeah, so we showed a variety of different opportunities for artist elements that would could be layered on to these solutions. And we got the most support for vertical sculpture, which was something that you already have done that's really successful. And so we could create places and even footings to be ready for that. Some low pedestrian level lighting that's sort of ready for that. And then when we've done similar type calls for artists on other streetscape projects, like on this example with Ridgeway, we did that for the benches, for some lighting, for a number of different wayfinding elements to give a little bit of memorable character to the street. And then so that process is handled by the city, describe the space and the size and purpose of that, and we collect submissions by different artists, and then you have a committee make a decision of your final selections. Like in Ridgeway, they had some pretty interesting things that made the final streetscape. One of them was propane tanks that the artists cut up and put welded back together into a bench. They're very linear and modern, and they put it in bright colors. That was unique to Ridgeway, So Moab would be very important to make that unique to Moab and to have a process that is inspired by the patterns and the direction that you want that to go. Yeah, it's a fun way to get more unique.
Well, that's been checked. There's also a lot of comments. Packet. What the issue was and how there's that street by street.
So with that, that's our presentation. We'd be happy to answer questions or the best of our abilities.
Great, thank you. Looks great. Questions, council?
Looks great. Very exciting. It's coming along. Both lots of opportunities. Hopefully this will make us one. So I'm curious, whether the stall limit.
We're using our state standard 18.5.
On the sort of schematic design that you're developing for the hotspot community, some of the mid-street diagonal parking, added some strips.
Yeah, pedestrian access.
Yeah.
So, and in order to maximize the stall count, we've actually made them narrower. We went from 2.5 feet, which was my preference. We're down to 1.5, I think, on the demonstration product. And the idea there is, room for open the doors, room for people to walk to the median, because sometimes people are too close to each other. Yeah, so now we still have them we would still have them on the median, like right there on Center Street. Those would still be there.
But in a commercial lot, someone could use diagonal parking with minimum stall size outfits. Right?
Yeah, there is no, on the angle-in parking, there is no pedestrian aisle between those spaces. That's just your space.
Yeah.
It's just in the middle of the street because we didn't have crosswalks across that street. I really felt we needed to have that.
That makes sense.
And watching folks park down the demonstration area, which they're generally doing, the only issue we're coming up with is extra long vehicles. The people seem to be adapting to that.
So I'm glad to see so many bulb outs. There's like all the benefits. But I'm wondering, so on Center Street West, there is a bulb out. So you've got a combined street. But it seems like that change hasn't. So, well, exactly. So we're at many intersections. There's 3 lanes, and there's only 2. But it seems like that right lane is an opportunity. Overall.
Yeah.
That's what I was curious about. You're saying you're right. It's crossing.
Yes, and you're hitting the nail on the head about that. Why we have put in all that in lieu of the right turn lanes. We have some turning counts on some intersections. We don't have one for every one of these. We just have the time ones. And there's enough through traffic and right turn traffic that I feel pretty strongly that keeping those right turn lanes is really a safety consideration, better than the bulb outs, because people are stop condition already. The bulb outs we're talking about putting in a lot of the intersections won't necessarily be 4-way stops, but it will slow people down as they approach the intersection. Whereas every one of the intersecting streets on Main Street has a traffic signal. So we're stop condition. So the pedestrians, that's working pretty good. It's the back up, stacking up vehicles. When I see people getting impatient, running red lights to get through, I think we've had more problems with that if we did it. That was hard. As well as if you've got, I'm sorry, just to add that quickly. Like you'll notice that there are no delineated bike lanes. So these are going to be sharing, so we'll have share roads everywhere, signs, things like that. Just because there's not enough horizontal space for bike lanes, the advantage of having those right and left turn and 3 lanes are from the bicyclists come out and want to make a movement. There's more room to do that to stop the lane as opposed to just stack it up. You don't know what people are doing. So I think it's a safer condition for bicyclists as well as that cars and pedestrians.
And then for right turns coming off of Main, seems like theoretically you could do a bulb out here without.
If we have one there. One of the input that we got at the stakeholder business meeting was it was too tight of a turn for the big trucks to make it through running into the trails. And actually honestly, these bulb outs we're showing you here, we haven't had the chance to design them to the 100%, as you understand. The radiuses will look a little bit different. We want to make sure that people can get off of Main Street and not be jumping up over those wall bounds if we're going to put amenities in there, even though you might have some possible curbs in there. But that's, we had that discussion, and that actually, that's a feedback from people don't put, that we have something like that one there.
Down, we've got one. So,
I mean, we tried it where we think we could make it fit. But we actually had, it was Nichols, the food supplier, who came to our meeting, and they were very helpful in terms of identifying areas to get in their routes. Now, I know they're not the only food supplier, they're not the only delivery. But it was helpful for us. Sure.
And then our rollouts into Main Street. Seems like that's where.
You know, from my perspective, it's not off the table, but it's something we haven't approached you yet about, because they're going to be the deciders on Main Street. Not council, not us, we can recommend, but what we're hoping is to get enough direction now that we can, UDOT hasn't seen this. I want to let you know, because I want council to be happy. And then go to UDOT and say, okay, these are the modifications we've made and why. I'm happy to ask them about rollouts on Main Street and get their feedback on that. You know, we have in the past talked about like the master plan, and even a bit in the park management study. And yeah, I'm sorry, that's what I meant. Downtown plan. Yeah, that's and it was lukewarm the way I remember. We could be happy to approach with that. Something you want to ask us to do. You know, what we do.
Continuing that conversation. Maybe we'll say yes. There's only questions. So it seems like those right turn lanes actually have as a loading space. That they could potentially get co-opted by delivery trucks. And then you would temporarily use that.
Yes, that's true. And we talked about that as an opportunity to do that. And we would, you know, there's going to be some signage that we have to. And we'll probably end up with some, we even at some point, I don't know if we ended up with any of this scenario, loading zone 8 to 5, no parking, or from 5 to 8, you know, we'd work with businesses to find out where the loading zone there's some. As we move forward, we'll need signage and wayfinding is something we're spending time and attention to.
Well, just one I generally am in agreement with more natural landscaping, and I'm supportive of trees. Gravitate toward. And I will do that. For what? Trees.
Yep.
Funding. That's all.
Great. Yeah, I think that's enough. Right, so you got it ready?
So, I mean, effectively, I'm talking about huge on without putting the work, say exactly where the existing stalls are. The average resident, where the parking change, they always do the job in this area. Really, the two opportunities out. That you could both out. Is there an over?
yeah, we can go, we're trying to have it right for this week, but I'll be honest, it's confusing.
Yeah. Yeah.
We did it.
And I'm sure there's some big stuff. So, then you have one part of the left. And one part of the door. So because it's not like it's one door. And then. So we all know the little bit of and think about him. You pull out beyond crosswalk. See what's going on. So I'm just trying to do. Sure, something thought about this. I told it not to be a problem, but it's almost like, maybe I used to make a pick up and I pull out the car, but now it's like, you're right. And then anyway, you are, if you put this housing, I've got very good. You're going closer, crosswalk, if you're approaching, but anyway. Oh, I might have to.
So I'll be honest on this, striking, so
Yeah,
that's what you're talking about right
yeah,
there. Striking on side streets, all you're doing is, you're probably used to pulling in, probably like,
yeah,
I just.
yeah.
You're saying this is interrupted. with-
Meanwhile, yeah, that's like, we're not going
We'll have to look at that. Yep.
And then I wasn't sure at what point or first song. So those that are there, then still a lot there. That's what UAP would do. But, I just did, yeah, I didn't know.
On which, I'm sorry, Brian.
I was just wondering if anybody consulted already with first responders, not any concerns, things like that.
The fire department came over to the downstream project, and they were a little leery at first. And one of the employees, and then they went back and got the chief, and they brought the big truck. And they went through it, made a comment or two, and they said, this will work. So we tried to include them in this, and they've seen this. We haven't gone to EMS, Highway Patrol, you're right, knows about it, and I watched them and we talked to them. They're okay with that. And on the demonstration project, we will open up the center meeting a little bit to assist the Forest Service on getting their vehicles and the jail getting their vehicles. It results in, and I think that design reflects this. So we lost a few stalls, but that's what we're doing, is trying to balance this out. Yeah, we have talked to them.
Okay, and then for one, because they are going to be, I don't think that will happen there. Most businesses have been on the business. Anyway, initially, we weren't talking about shuttered valves, right? Those are,
That's correct.
they don't need some notification.
If-
Somebody else.
Yeah, if council kind of says to us tonight, you're okay with this, that's one of the things we were talking about, how we're going to contact those stores. We'll do the same thing. We'll meet with them, show them what we're looking at. And we think based on what we learned from the other business owners and residents, we've learned a lot as we try to address those issues, but there may be some, we'll meet with them.
Years ago, over the years, we discussed this, the big push for the median was, more, better for traffic. So, when people ask the question about where we have lots of that, it really is just as simple.
That's exactly right. And I know you were on that, I think you were on the hotspot committee, but Cam, you'll recall that we had long conversations about curb to curb being a boundary commissioner, limiting factor on some of the things, and not every street, because we weren't built as one master plan community. Right? the street this decade and maybe the street of the other decade. So that's exactly the answer.
Okay, it'll be interesting how we do those, you know, larger TV back and people I've been hearing that stuff. Oh, it's in the big, definitely. Bring infrastructure or these, extend the junction with us. Or use. Yeah, so I didn't give us a little section for prices, but I think that. The prices, but. In the settlement. But they somehow, you know, how long it takes. Great, we can actually find out some of those, that'd be great. Because we do a little bit potentially, if your traffic home, is there anything else additional that can be done to make up probably what we do, but having more. I have one more thing, we do, but another thing for public works. And then people just comment about, they guys, actually could be. Right, so I think we're thinking all about it too. We do anything. I would. Now, the one call the winner, the courthouse, a lot, other a lot. Areas. But in general, after looking at the aesthetics of the color, we want to do for the median that those design median better. That was that median thing.
Funding available, yes.
Yeah, okay, and then front word change. Yeah, so further down the line, I'll have a little bit more input on actual artistic work. Short, right? I think a lot of questions. I was saying one thing.
You thought the only jaywalking that occurs by law is between signalized intersections.
Oh.
All these side streets. Yeah, I know, in other states, it's clearly jaywalking. But we did the research in the last police chief and I, and the last county attorney, city attorney, looked through and came to the same conclusion, reading the statutes. It's different than most other states. It's a
I just want, you to explain to me how the tree line zone works. On the, like on 200 South. I mean, I know those lanes are wide, but I mean, tree lanes wide?
200 South is curb to curb. It's one of the widest streets. Yeah, that's why we chose
Say 15 feet wider.
Oh, okay. So that's a wider street.
it is wider.
Okay, all right, I wasn't, I'm used to that just being. I'm happy to get before.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay,
And that's why we weren't able to get you the stuff right ahead of time. Really, we wanted you to be as doable as possible when we present it to you. But that's the answer, is that reason why. After the, in fact, real quick, after the workshop, we knew we were gonna have to be cutting modify the original design.
Rebuild every street, trying to figure out what the solution. So. that's what we-
Thank you, Warren, for immortalizing my understanding of beauty.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm too much to add to what was said. I really appreciate like the effort that you all put into taking into consideration comments that were really excited about the whole house. I'm really looking forward to kind of designing streets to kind of dictate speed through the neighborhoods, being able to speed signs don't work very well. Definitely in support of trees and shade. All kinds of mitigants that would be appreciated. And yeah, I'm focusing on local education. It'd be great. That's something that I received feedback about. And yeah, I guess ultimately I would like to learn how to be classical things. Trying to move out a little bit. But I just understand that's following this like
What accommodation do you need by claims?
that'd be cool. But I also that there are limitations that you have to work with it. This is still addressing. What else was
And bicycles.
it?
As a function of this, right? The other thing that we would try to work with is one of the drugs has out of storage facilities. That would be better than the ones that are out there.
Yeah, exactly. Just to keep numbers.
So, years ago, there was a 100 South infrastructure. Which I think is still in the. So, no, that will be on 100 East Block. It will. First, that be rolled into this.
Well, good question. And it is still alive as we have those plans, it is on CIP. If we zoom in, it looks different than this. If you're, it has the bulb outs, they're at 100 East. So that was in the project. We had a parallel park with wider park strips as opposed to this diagonal park. So on next to the hotel, there's 0 park. So if we go to this diagonal park, that park strip beautification would happen. I think there might be some room on the north side still to do some things with maybe some trees, but there are some trees out there. But the bulb outs, and one thing I was going to say quickly is we have gotten to the point of if these bulb outs, some of them can be used as stormwater basins, some of them won't be able to be used. Part of that irrigation water is counterproductive downstream. But in that one, some of the features stay, and everything to the east of it would remain the same. But right there, we use the park strip with in order to maximize the stalls.
Okay, that makes sense. As you know, I haven't looked at it in years. It's like the worst stormwater management.
There are.
So just as you were talking about it, pencil it out, for 200 South East, there's 9 double loaded blocks or Main Street stalls. So if you were to take that 1.5 foot between each stall and combine it, that would give you like 13 foot strip that you could put in the middle of that. Which then you would have a clearly defined place.
But remember, there's no place for that to go linearly along the street if you listen. As the cars are nose to nose, in order to get to that center, we have this discussion about process. It's a good discussion because it also that you're walking between vehicles that are nose to nose, get down to that center corridor, which is actually crossing. And there's really no room there because those will have vertical bollards. At a minimum to keep people hitting each other or from moving through. That's one of the concerns about the median parking is, oh, there's nobody in front of me. I'll just pull up here all the way to the end, and when I'm done, I'll turn. Guess what? You can't turn left because there's no room in that 12-foot lane. You have to go right, which is going the wrong way on the street. So that's essentially what we're creating, one of the streets where the median parking is. So that's why we did design in those crosswalks, because unlike here where we have the sidewalk that goes down the middle and delivers people to the crosswalk, there's just not. That's because, and I know it's been a while, we had extra room here because we went into city property to make this cross section out here work. It wasn't just a right of way. That's why we don't have those crosswalks in the middle. It's not really a delivery mechanism. That's why we put in the pedestrian lines to deliver people to the street.
Okay, thanks. And then one final thought that I watching. Now that we have this demonstration project, it would be nice to finish it out the way the others. See if they can go and chip in. with this thing.
I think that's always a great idea.
I think that's-
Okay, I will, I can do that with. We talked about that yesterday, not this. Brian, you have 3 seconds.
Yeah, this one is back. Comment. Thank you. Did you need it?
I believe so. Yes, thank you for this comment. We'll move forward with that. And I didn't hear anything that says for us to stop on the June 16th meeting, because I think we can incorporate those comments that we heard today.
And Chuck, we reached out to Jason, I'm sure he has some thoughts on second stop.
Yep.
And in fact, we know, I think the thing that I heard the most, trees. I always try to find the shade and then part of it. See who really part of the shade. So it's the push Sorry, Jared. Anyway, thank you guys so much for your time. I'm really excited to see how this all plays out. Well, if council has any additional questions or comments, can they give those to you by the end of this week? Does that
Absolutely.
work for you?
I'm off Thursday, Friday. Email me. And, I'll look at it first thing when I come back. Maybe we can spare me. June 16th will be our public meeting, which will advertise and we'll have it at the Grand Center because it's larger space than this is.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, correct. It'll be standalone.
And then we'll get a public comment and then we'll come back to us. For more. Now, we're input on the public. Right. Great, thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to call the workshop to a close at 6:02. We're going to take about 5 minutes.